sing a song in your head? Well, see, there's the answer to what I hope will be the question that I asked during the video and put on the title, but who knows? I tend to ramble sometimes. But I believe that I'm going to talk about is what's the best way to improve your score at golf, bowling, or any other kind of physical activity. I know you're thinking, hey, you look like the epitome of physical health there. Okay. But back when I was in, I don't know, high school, we'll say, I used to go out bowling and play golf and things like that. Outdoor kind of activities, somewhat. I guess bowling isn't that much of outdoor activity, but it was an activity that required spatial thinking. And one of the things that I had read about back then, I had a bunch of books on psychology and performance, and it's your right brain versus your left brain. And so a lot of people, when they're learning, they keep repeating stuff over and over to themselves, like, "Oh, make sure you swing this way," and "Oh, you're doing that," and the left brain can be very critical. And it's the verbal aspect of the brain. Most of that is theoretical, I guess, and some people believe or don't believe it, but in general, the idea is that there's a state of flow that people get into. So, like professional sports players, when they're asked afterwards, like, what were they thinking about while they're doing that? It's like they weren't thinking. I mean, they obviously were thinking, but they claimed they weren't. So what they meant was they weren't thinking in words, probably. And so there's a whole book called Flow, the performance of optimal peak performance, or I don't know. You can find it out. Maybe I'll find it. I'll put it in a link for the description. But the idea was that once you master something, when you first start, say, driving a stick shift or playing golf or tennis or bowling, or you start off by saying, "Oh, okay, I got to hold the club this way. I got to shift when this happens, or when I hear this sound, I do this," and you have a set of steps in your mind. But after you become better at it, you use that less and less, and eventually, at some point, you don't even think about it, and you can drive from one place to another, and then say, "Hey, how did I get here?" It's like, well, obviously, you had a lot of complex tasks, but you weren't thinking about it. You were, but not with your verbal side of your brain. And so the idea was to try to get to that state. Well, there's a trick to get there sooner, before you become a master at something, is that once you have the basics, like I got to swing the club this way. We'll pick golf for example. I started off, I don't think I was like 120s or something like that golfing. And I only ever played a couple times, maybe a dozen times or so, but I was down under 100 consistently after that. Was the idea that you end up you're critical all the time, self-critical. Your left brain just keeps going on and on about, "Oh, you did that wrong. Oh, I can't believe you messed up that swing." But you can't do that if you're singing a song in your head. If you're hearing a song that you know well and know the lyrics to, you just hear it in your head. Sing it, or almost like an earworm kind of thing. And as it's going on, you can't do that. Your mind can't do the other part. So the part that's actually taking control and the right brain-ish kind of thing that does spatial motion knows how to do it because you've practiced, probably swung a couple times, and it'll do it better. And as you swing, it seems weird at first because you'll stand there and you'll be singing a song. And I remember doing that, and I was like, wow, it feels like I'm going to totally mess up. Like I'm going to totally miss the ball, or I'm just going to mess up in some way. But that's the one part of your brain trying to get involved when it shouldn't. So it's just hum a song, think about something else, not think about, but a song seems works the best, is what I had found from what I read and what I tried myself. So I guess I was wondering if that same thing is true when they tell you to focus on, like you worked with a pro or something like that, and they say, okay, well, practice this swing and just think about moving your body this way, or if you're bowling, swing your ball this way and focus on that one step. But they pick one thing to focus on, so that way your mind's not drifting around and picking on every aspect of what you're doing. And so, like I said, I think I forgot what I was, probably Joy Division or something like that I was listening to at the time. So I would just be out playing golf, hearing Joy Division in my head. And I wasn't critical as I was swinging the club. And then it's like, yeah, I just started swinging better and getting better scores. And it seemed to work out. I believe that's the same thing that I think Tony Robbins even, when he talked about for visualizations. There's also other things with eye movements and stuff like that. Like you look a certain direction, it causes your brain to think a certain way, right? Because if you're trying to think of something, you tend to look up, or you look down and you're trying to remember, or there's a whole series of stuff on that. I mean, obviously your eyes have to do something, right? They're controlled by your brain, so you're doing something while you're doing something, just like all parts of your body. That's how people do body reading language. And so the same thing, it's like by taking control of it and making certain changes, you have more control over what's going on internally. So you control the internal by changing the external, and it's the other way around. So you focus on a song, and eventually you'll get better at it, and you won't hear that. I was thinking about it before I started this. It's like, well, how about listening to music? And I don't know. There was no real portable players back then, so I didn't really try it. But I don't think that would work because it becomes passive. The idea is you have to occupy that voice somehow, and that seems the way to do that. But I don't know. I don't play golf or bowl or anything like that anymore. But I do definitely when I'm writing code or other stuff. I get to a place where I can't really speak. It's like I'm thinking in something and I'm visualizing something, and someone asks me a question. It's like I can't actually talk. And there's a brain thing, a magnetic resonance or something. They have a device that they sell over the counter that people say don't trust because it messes with your brain. But the idea is if they shut off certain parts of your brain, you can actually perform better in artistic skills. And that one they've definitely proven over and over again as well. It came from what they call the idiot savants. I forget what the current term for that is, but the idea is that they determine that one part of the brain is just not working at that point. And so they can recreate that simulation. They can actually shut off one part of your brain. And so you think, oh, I wouldn't be able to do anything. But actually, you can shut off the verbal part and you can draw better. And they have examples of it, amazing videos I've seen where people they say draw a dog, and yeah, it looks like a stick figure. And then after sitting in this chair and shutting off part of the brain, they can draw dogs that look realistic. I mean, incredible. But they can't talk though while they're doing it. It's like they get stuck in this mind. It's like shutting off that part. It's like a disconnect. But I don't know about for the people who do split brain. I was curious about that one myself because when you have the cerebral cortex or the connecting tissue between the two hemispheres, I forgot the name now. When they sever that, they have to do it for certain operations. Then each hemisphere controls a different half of the brain, and they have interesting studies where they try to pick an object with their hand, and if it's in the one hand, they can describe it, and the other hand, they can pick out another one that's similar to it. But the verbal and the nonverbal side can't communicate, so depending on which hand is touching the object determines what they can do about it. So each part of the brain is in competition, and there's the which one will win in a certain task, and so just try to force one and the other. So for creative tasks, you need to shut off the verbal part at some point. So it also makes me wonder about the stuff that was popular a few years ago where people said, well, if you're really stressed, try coloring. Like coloring books were popular. And there's coloring books for adults. I think I have a whole drawer full of them right here next to me. And it's at some point, I guess you're focused on that so much that your other brain takes off, or your allows you to concentrate on other stuff or think about shutting off one part while working on something else. Like the creative part takes over. Although I always heard that the creative part leaves the depression more. So I don't know how that part works out, but I'm just having a conversation now. I'm not a medical doctor or have taken many classes in psychology, so is this something interesting I found out, that there's ways to actually improve things that have measurable results just by changing what you're thinking about or the words you're saying in your mind or songs you're listening to, or so hum a tune or think of a tune in your head. I don't know if singing out loud helps. That probably distracts other people. But yeah, just listen to a song and sing Mary Had a Little Lamb or some of your favorite songs, and hope this helps in some way. But anyway, I have a whole list of topics I was jotting down here. So I'll talk about the rest some other time. But this is today's video, and hope you have a great day. Take care.